Good morning, folks. Nice, bright and early. Sunny day down here in Bristol. I hope the weather's good for you. So just give folk a minute or two to join us. Hi there. There's a few of you joining us now. How are you today? So we've got a special session today. This is something... Hi Alan, you're all right. Two aspects of yoga that are really, really dear to my heart, breath and balance. And I think, especially in the running community, they are two really overlooked and underrated aspects of training. I think partly because it's quite unsexy, it's not hard, it's not sweaty, it's not necessarily Instagram worthy, but overlook them at your peril because both breathing and balance can be really, really beneficial for your run training, whatever level that you're at. Hi there, Andrea. Thanks for joining. So the first part of today's session is going to be a little bit of breath. Then we're going to do some balance, then we're going to go back to the breath. So if you get yourself into a comfortable sitting position, that can be up against the wall or on a chair. So I'm sitting on a little rocking chair at the moment as well. So just get yourself into a really comfortable position so you're not going to be distracted by the seat, so that you can focus on your breathing. Morning, Mark. So get yourself really comfy, and if it suits you to close your eyes, then please do. And for those of you joining in, we're just getting comfortable, sitting position, close your eyes and start to bring your attention to your breathing. And just notice how it is this morning. So first of all, do you naturally breathe through your nose? Through your mouth, or is it a mix of both? Does your breathing feel fast or slow? Can you hear your breath? Can you notice whether there is a pause at the end of the in-breath and at the end of the out-breath? And if you pop your hands around from the chest down to the belly area, where are you feeling that breath move the body? Is it down around here? You feel it more up here? So many of us don't really pay attention to our breath. Why would we? It happens automatically. But there's a huge habit now, cultural habit that has developed for what we call ineffective breathing, dysfunctional breathing. Normal and natural breathing is through the nose. It's quiet, it's slow, and it tends to move the body down here because the diaphragm is working. But through the culture of sitting scrunched up like this, diaphragm can't move, stress, anxiety, the people not liking the belly to be sort of free, and so they're drawing the abdomen in. All of these factors have led a lot of people to be breathing through the mouth, and that can lead to all sorts of problems through health, through your sleep, so it can actually affect your quality of sleep. Now, I'm going to do a short test for you guys now, which will I'll talk about at the end what the sort of score means, but I'll just get you to do it now. So all it is a very, very short breath hold. Absolutely fine for anyone, as long as you're not pregnant. If you're pregnant, just skip this bit. So again, still in your seated position, breathing in and out through the nose. What I'm going to ask you to do in a moment is to take a breath in through the nose, then a breath out through the nose, pinch and hold your breath out until you feel the first desire to breathe. Now, no willpower is required here. There's no pushing. As soon as you feel the first signal that you want to breathe, let go. And I want you to count in seconds in your head what that period of time is. So you may sense a really strong desire to swallow. You might feel a kick in the stomach, but there'll be something that tells you, oh, I really want to breathe and I'd like to let go at that point, and just make a mental note of what that time period is. Okay? So when you're ready, just taking a normal breath in through your nose, a normal breath out, pinch and hold your breath, counting in seconds. And when you let go, just breathe in through the nose. Okay, so I'm assuming most of you probably finished by now. So keep a mental note of that score, that number of seconds, and I'll look at that again later. So we're going to do a little bit of movement now. So from your sitting down position, what I'd like you to do is get up without using your hands. So you could put your hands on your head, and I'd like you to try and get up without using your hands. And then come down a slightly different way. Again, getting up in a different way, not using your hands, and maybe coming down a different way from before. So we're just going to do a few more of these, just to get your hips and the lower body starting to work and warm up. So I was thinking this is a really good way of getting some hip mobility without it feeling like a workout. So try and do a different approach down to the floor each time. Okay, so last one. As you come up to standing, stay up there. Okay. So bringing yourself to a standing position, feet hip widths apart, a little bit closer. And you can close your eyes here if that's good, or just take your gaze somewhere that's really undistracting, so perhaps the floor or a white wall. And I'd like you to bring your attention to your feet. Feel the weight in your feet. Does the weight feel equally distributed? Is there more weight in the front of the feet or more weight in the back? Is there more weight in the left foot or in the right? And could you visualise a tripod where the weight of your whole body is balanced down through 3 points in each of your feet? The first point just below the big toe, the second below where the little toe is, and the last part is your heel. So there's this triangle, this tripod in each of your feet. And one of the keys to successful balance is to keep in mind this tripod. So if you think about it as humans, there's an awful lot of us balancing on not a very big surface area. So we do need to be considerate of grounding ourselves before we start our balance practice. And after time and practice, this becomes an unconscious pattern, and you'll find you're much more stable through your feet. And I will say, if there's anyone who's still wearing socks or shoes, please take them off. It's much, much better to do this through barefoot. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do now is to start to shift your weight onto one side. And notice what starts to work in your body as you shift your weight to one side. And then can you shift so much so that you can take one foot off the floor? And as you shift to this balance, does anything change in your breath? Does it speed up? Do you hold your breath? And we can start to play around with some movement now. So do make sure that the buttock on this side is nice and strong here, helping to keep you stable. And we can play around with taking the foot forwards, taking it back. How does that feel around the front of the hip? And then destabilising ourselves a little bit by taking the leg out to the side. So as you explore, notice what's happening with your breath. Okay, then we're going to shift and do the same on the other side. So grounding through that other foot, shifting the weight over. And as you start to explore a bit of movement, just also be mindful of what's happening to your breath. Okay, so the foot you've currently got lifted, if you just take it across and pop it to the far side of the standing leg, and then the arm on the same side, we're going to take it up and over so that we're opening up this side of the body into the side bend. You can take your gaze up to the ceiling. And then take a breath in, release that arm down. So this leg that's now crossed, could you hook it around the back of your calf muscle? Some people don't have the hip flexibility for this, so you could just try popping your foot, resting it on top of the standing foot. That's still a balance. If that's really not happening, just pop it back to that position we were in a minute ago, with the toes just slightly resting on the floor. So which any of those positions work for you, try and make sure that the knees are tracking forwards in any of those positions that you're in. And then we're going to play around with sinking down. So I'm just going to turn around to show you from the side. It's as if you're going to sink down into a high chair. And notice what happens to your breath. Do you hold your breath? Does the breath speed up? And then we're going to release. And trying not to bring the foot down if you can, take it around and all the way around to the other side. So I'm just going to turn so you can see me. So again, this front knee is still tracking forwards. Now this is a really, really nice stretch for the IT band. So again, I'm just leaning forward a tiny bit here. And then sweeping that leg back round and back to standing. So that's a nice little pattern that you can practice and try and do all of those moves without bringing the foot back to the floor. Okay, so let's do the same on the other leg. So first of all, we're just going to cross over, rest the tips of the toes on the floor. Take a breath in, reach the arm up and over. And breathing in, lift up, and breathing out, coming down. So, with that leg, could we hook it around the back? Or rest it on the top of the foot? Or rest the toes down? Whichever of those options you take, try and play around with sinking down into the floor. or sinking down as if you're about to sit on a chair or a stool. And then releasing by standing up, and see if you can take the leg all the way around the back. Rest it behind you. So this is like a curtsy. Sometimes you do this in the gym with weights. But we're taking that leg all the way around and then sinking into that front knee. And then releasing the leg. And give those legs a little bit of a shake. So, yeah, thanks for those comments, Jeanette. Give those legs a nice shake. Okay, so what we can do now is to add a shoulder work to that same pose as well. And the two together create a pose called the eagle pose in yoga. I'm not 100% sure why, because eagles don't really stand in the position we're going to go in, but it's a nice easy name to remember. So if we go back to that original leg we were on, actually we'll do the arms first. So what I like to do with your arms is to take the arms out wide, give yourself a hug with the left arm underneath the right. And then keeping the elbows together, bring the forearms together, and see if you can bring the palms of the hands together so that your forearms are now interlinked. If that's not going to work for you, just try and grab whatever you can of the hand to try and keep those arms together. Okay? So this is your arm position, and hopefully you can already feel that there's a stretch coming into the upper back from around the shoulder blades up to the tips of the shoulders. So you can either stay here if you want to add the balance. So what we did before, we're going to do the left leg crossing over the right and then sinking down. And this is your eagle. Steady breathing. So there's a temptation to hold our breath when we put ourselves in a challenging position. If that's happening with you, just notice it. And then we're going to lift up, unravel, unravel. Woo! So it's a really lovely movement for the shoulders and for the hips. So we'll do the same on the other side. So again, giving yourself a hug. This time my right arm's coming underneath the left. Elbows together, trying to wrap my forearms around as much as I can. And then the leg hooks around. And then if it's accessible for you, sinking down a little bit as if you're perching on a high chair. And lifting up, unravel and unravel, and shake out the arms, shake out the legs. So from here we're going to come into a forward bend, and there's an option here for you to take the hands behind you clasped together. Depending on the mobility in your shoulders, you might be able to straighten the arms, and as you come over, take them overhead. But if that's not accessible to you, just rest the hands on the lower back as you come over. And then release the hands. Let the arms hang down, and now the upper body feels a little bit like a rag doll. And then from here, bring yourself back down to a sitting position. So any comfortable position for you. I'm just going to come back to my little chair. Okie doke. So, I appreciate that some of those postures might have been quite challenging for you, but you can break it apart like we did. So there's always a modification that you can do, and I do encourage you to play around with your balance. Don't feel that you need to come into that classic Instagram type image of a yoga pose. Play around with it, do what you can. Okay, so going back to the breath exercise that we did at the beginning, does anyone want to share the number of seconds that they held their breath? Anyone want to pop that into the message box? Don't have to, but it'd be interesting to see if anyone wants to share their score. Is it okay to do yoga every day? Absolutely. In fact, I encourage you to do some movement that mobilises your whole body every day. So we brush our teeth every day, we have a shower every day. Why not do a joint mobilising motion every day? I don't know why this isn't something that is in common practice, but it's so important to make sure that you're moving all of your joints, challenging your balance a little bit, and moving in a different way from how you move when you walk or you run. So yeah, go for it every day. Play around with it. There's plenty of yoga and mobilising videos out there that can guide you. Yeah, so yoga in between each run would be fantastic to balance out the type of movement you're doing with your running, and then you're moving in a different way in the alternate days, and that's going to be much more holistic for training. Okay, so we've got a few scores here, 18, 14, 18, fantastic. Okay, so what you did was known as the controlled pause or the BOLT score, body oxygen level test. And it's an indicator of how sensitive your body is to carbon dioxide. Now, when we exercise, the body naturally creates more carbon dioxide. So if you're quite sensitive to carbon dioxide, you're more likely to get out of breath earlier. Not just out of breath, but actually needing to take a bigger breath. So the more sensitive you are to carbon dioxide, the more likely you are to be mouth breathing quite heavily, even at a slow and easy pace. So this is trainable, and I know probably most of you don't know my backstory, but I was actually a competitive freediver for a few years. And I did an awful lot of breath training, as you can probably imagine. I competed in the pool, so it was breath hold swimming as far as you can. I set 5 UK records doing that. At one point I was able to swim almost 4 lengths of an Olympic pool on one breath. So lots of breathing exercises, but the mainstay of my training was carbon dioxide tolerance training. And this is what I help share with people now, because you can train your body to be less sensitive to carbon dioxide and therefore get less out of breath when you run. It's also really valuable for anyone who suffers from exercise-induced asthma or exercise-induced rhinitis, because this condition is primarily caused by mouth breathing large volumes of air in and out, where the cold air is hitting the lungs. Lungs don't like that. The mouth breath out is releasing a lot of moisture, and it means that the lungs dry out, or the airways dry out. And you're left with a situation where, for some people with quite sensitive airways, they start to tense up, they inflame, you find it harder to breathe, coughing, wheezing after your exercise, etc., etc. So most people who suffer from exercise-induced asthma are given inhalers and medication from their doctors, but it isn't necessarily a classic asthma condition. It's not something that you necessarily need to live with for your whole life, and I really encourage those of you who do struggle with that to explore the natural option of shifting towards nose breathing to reduce the impact on your lungs. And that's something that I can talk to you offline about for a long time because it's one of my top topics. The other thing that I can share with you today before we finish is a really lovely breathing exercise which helps focus your mind. So if you guys are going to go off to work now, this will help. It's also a great nose unblocking exercise. So it actually can help clear the nose of stuffiness, mucus, naturally without needing a decongestant. And it's also really good for relaxation. So it's a bit of a multitasking breathing exercise. It's quite similar to what we did a moment ago. This time just a number of short breath holds. Can be for 2 to 5 seconds. So it's even okay to do this if you are pregnant, just stick to sort of 2 seconds for each of the breath holds. But it is accessible for anyone to do these very, very short breath holds. So if you just bring yourself into a comfortable position, if you close your eyes, it can be a much more relaxing experience. Focus on the breath in the nose. And then when you're ready, take a normal breath in through the nose, a normal breath out, pinch and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release and breathe in. Normal breath in and out. And then a breath in, breath out, pinch and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release, breathe in. Normal breath in, normal breath out, pinch and hold, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release and breathe in. Normal breath in, normal breath out, pinch and hold, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release and breathe in. Last one, breathing in, breathing out, pinch and hold, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release and breathe in. So if you haven't closed your eyes, I invite you to do so now. Notice how your breathing is following that exercise. Sometimes it's necessary to do that for a few minutes before you really sense that it's clearing the airways. Now, I won't go into the detail now as to why that happens, but I'm more than happy to explain that offline. Nature's secrets. So perhaps just take a breath in through the nose and then sigh the breath out. And a big smile inside for yourself for taking this time out to move your body and to become more aware of your breathing. And big gratitude for yourself. And when you feel ready to open your eyes, bringing that smile outside and coming back to our little yoga room. So a little bit of a different session today, but I hope that's been of interest to you. I'll post a couple of links below this video for anyone who is interested to find out a little bit more about breathing techniques for exercise-induced asthma or variations of. Also links to doing that nose unblocking exercise, which hopefully it does help you feel a little bit more focused. I know someone who does this exercise before he does presentations, the very short breath holds. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed, and do keep in touch if you want to talk about breathing. More than happy to do that, and you probably see me come online and post little comments about breath as we go as well. So have a fantastic day, and I shall catch up with you next week. Take care. Bye everyone.